Hi there, welcome to today's lesson. This lesson will be on the play Much Ado About Nothing by William Shakespeare. Now, this play is a comedic play by William Shakespeare, and it's about misunderstandings, love, and deception. So, William Shakespeare himself was an English playwright. He was also a poet and actor, and is widely regarded as the greatest writer in English language, and also the world's greatest dramatist. If you'd like to know more about him and his life and his other works, then one of our other tutors, Louise, has actually made a lesson just about him himself. And you can learn out more about William Shakespeare by watching that lesson. But this lesson is just going to focus on one of his many plays, in particular, Much Ado About Nothing. So we're going to start by looking at some of the characters in this play. It looks a bit complex at the beginning, but hopefully as we work through, you'll start seeing who each person is and understanding the play in more detail. Now, starting with this top line here. So we have Leonato, who is the governor of Messina. And Messina is where the play is set. So Leonato is the governor of Messina. And he has a daughter called Hero. So his daughter is called Hero, and she features quite prominently in the play. So we have Leonato, who is the head of Messina, the governor of Messina, and we have his daughter Hero. He also has a niece called Beatrice. So we have Beatrice, who is the niece, and we have Hero, who is the daughter. And these two are friends, as you will go on to see. And they are both connected but to Leonato, who is the uncle and father of them both, respectively. So that is the top line. And then we have Don Pedro. So Don Pedro is the Prince of Aragon. So he is above Leonato in terms of ranking. So Leonato serves under Don Pedro. And Don Pedro, as you will see, has just been at war. So he's coming back from war, and he's with his two friends who serve under him. And these two friends are called Benedick and Claudio. So we have Don Pedro coming back from war with his two friends, Benedick and Claudio, who serve him. And then we also have Don John, who is the bastard brother of Don Pedro. So he is also coming back from war with his two friends, Hortensio and Conrad. So we have these two friends of Don John, and we have the two friends of Don Pedro. And then under Don Pedro, we have Leonato, who rules the local area, and his daughter and his niece. There are also two maids who feature called Ursula and Margaret, but they have more minor roles, so you don't need to worry too much about them. We'll cover that when we get to it. Now we're going to start with Act 1, which is the beginning of the play. So this play begins in Messina, where Leonato lives. We said before, he's the governor. So he lives in Messina with his daughter, Hero, and her cousin and companion, Lady Beatrice. So you remember before, Beatrice is the niece of Leonato. So he lives there with his daughter and his niece. So Hero, Beatrice, and Leonato live in Messina. And at the start of the play, Leonato receives word that his friend, the Duke Don Pedro, so remember the prince before, the Prince of Aragon, he's returning from war and plans to visit Messina with some of his fellow soldiers. So Don Pedro is coming to visit Messina from war with his friends, as you'll see, Benedick and Claudio, and they're coming to visit Messina, where Leonato, Hero, and Beatrice live. So among his friends is Claudio, and what happens when they arrive at Messina is Claudio quickly falls in love with Hero. So Claudio, the friend of Don Pedro, the prince, he quickly falls in love with Hero, who is the daughter of Leonato in Messina. And Claudio tells Don Pedro, his friend, that he wants to marry her. So it all happens quite quickly. Claudio meets Hero and he wants to marry her when he visits Messina. And we also have Benedick arriving with Don Pedro as well. And he is a bachelor who has sworn off love and marriage. So he's very against love and marriage. And he enjoys speaking his mind in quite a witty argument with Beatrice. So Benedick and Beatrice have a bit of a witty argument. Meanwhile, Hero and Claudio are falling in love. And he also refers to Beatrice, Benedict refers to Beatrice as Lady Disdain when they're reunited. So there's clearly some sort of a history here because the two are bickering as if they've known each other for a long time. And as I said, he refers to her as Lady Disdain rather than Lady Beatrice. So that is all that happens in Act 1. We have them coming back from war, Claudio falls in love with Hero, and Benedict and Beatrice have a bit of a bicker. Now, moving on to Act 2, this is where Leonato decides to hold a masked ball to celebrate the end of the war. So Leonato is hosting a ball in Messina. And at the ball, Claudio and Hero arrange to be married. So Hero and Claudio, who we know met in Act 1, they have decided they are getting married. At the same time, while this is going on, we see Don Pedro's brother. So you remember from this diagram here, Don John is the bastard brother of Don Pedro. And Don John turns up in this scene. So Don Pedro's brother, Don John, he is also present at this ball. And he wants a way to spoil the general happiness. Just because he's quite bitter and petty of his own accord, he wants to make sure that other people aren't happy in this story. So Don John plots with his fellow soldiers, who we met before, called Horatio and Conrad, to deceive Claudio into believing he has cheated on him. So Don John wants to plot with his friends to deceive Claudio into thinking that Hero has cheated on him. So that's their plan to sort of cause chaos amongst the characters. So moving on to Act 3. What happens in Act 3 is Don John executes this plan. And what he does is he has Hero's maid, who we spoke about briefly, called Margaret. He has her talking to one of his friends from Hero's bedroom window. So Don John sets up his friend with Margaret at Hero's window. So those two are at Hero's window. It's not Hero, it's Margaret, and it's Don John's friend, his companion. Now, Claudio and the Duke see this meeting from a distance, and they think that girl at the window is Hero. And as a result, Claudio is distraught because he believes that Hero is being unfaithful. But the audience knows that that is in fact Margaret and Don John's friend. But from the eyes of Claudio and the Duke, Don Pedro, they believe that to be Hero. So they think that Hero has been unfaithful to Claudio. So while this is all happening, Hero, Claudio, and Don Pedro decide that Benedict and Beatrice are ideal partners, despite their bickering or because of their bickering. So you remember Act 1, Beatrice and Benedict argue quite a lot. Well, the others think that this is more flirty than it is, and they think that they should get together. So they make a plot to allow Benedict to overhear them discussing Beatrice's love for him and vice versa. So they know that Benedict is listening, and they speak about Beatrice being in love with him, knowing that he is listening. And the same happens with Beatrice. Hero then speaks about Benedict for being in love with him, and they both hear each other apparently declaring their love. And after a series of overheard conversations, Benedict and Beatrice realize that they do indeed love one another. So this plot works, and Beatrice and Benedict fall in love. But as you'll see, if you remember from before, Claudio is still very distraught about the Hero situation, still thinking that she has been unfaithful. Now, moving on to Act 4 of the play. So this is Hero's wedding scene. And at Hero's wedding, Claudio is still deceived into thinking that Hero cheated on him. So she still thinks that Hero cheated on him. And he denounces her and leaves her apparently dead from shock. So he calls her out at the wedding, and Hero is very shocked by this. And as far as everyone is aware, she dies from the shock of this accusation. And with the help of a priest, Leonato, Beatrice, and Benedict decide to pretend that Hero is actually dead until her name can be cleared. So Leonato, Beatrice, and Benedict pretend that Hero actually died of shock, and in the meantime, they want to prove her innocence. And then the play moves on, and later we see the Watchmen, which is managed by a bumbling village constable called Dogberry, and they overhear Don John's friends bragging about the trick that they played on Claudio and Don Pedro. So the Watchmen of the city, they overhear Don John's friends speaking about the plot to split up Claudio and Hero, and they arrest them. So they arrest them because they have conspired this trick. Now, moving on to Act 5. So this is the final part of the play, the final act. And Dogberry, the head of the watch, after a while, this incriminating information that he's collected, it's given eventually to Leonardo and Don Pedro. So it's eventually passed up to Leonardo and Don Pedro. And as penance for causing Hero's death, Claudio agrees to accept Leonardo's niece in the place of Hero. So he doesn't tell her straight away. Leonardo doesn't tell Claudio straight away that Hero is in fact alive. He pretends that he's going to marry Claudio off to another niece in place of Hero. And this niece conveniently turns out to be Hero in the end. And the play then comes to a joyful conclusion as Hero and Claudio are reunited as lovers, and Benedict and Beatrice also announce that they will share in the wedding day. And Don John is captured while trying to escape and is left for future trial while the play ends with a merry dance. So everyone ends up happy. We have the couples who are married off, and we have Don John who is arrested at the end of the play. Now we're just going to quickly do a quiz to see how much attention you have been paying. So the first question of this quiz is, where is Benedict arriving from at the start of the play? So have a quick think, and then I'm going to tell you the answer. So the correct answer here is actually fighting in the wars. So the question answer is letter C. As I said about before, Don Pedro, Benedict, Claudio, and then Don John and his friends, they've all just come back from war. Now, question 2, what does Benedict call Beatrice when they meet again? Does he call her Lady Courtesy, Lady Disdain, Lady Beatrice, or Lady Gaga? I mean, I think D is clearly not the right answer here, but have a quick think which one you think it is. So if you remember correctly, it's actually B, so it's Lady Disdain. He doesn't refer to her as Lady Beatrice like he should do, because they have that relationship where they bicker a bit. So he actually refers to her as Lady Disdain. Now moving on to the third question, what does Claudio tell Don Pedro he wants to do in Act 1? So is it marry Hero, get Beatrice to admit she loves Benedict, go back to the wars, or have a big party? So if you remember correctly, it was actually letter A, it was marry Hero. He thinks this straight away as soon as he meets her, and in Act 1, he tells Don Pedro he wants to marry her. Now moving on to, I think, the final question here, what is the name of the foolish constable who runs the town watch? Is it Don John? Is it Dogberry? Is it William? Or is it Simple? Which one is it? So if you remember correctly, it is letter B, it is Dogberry, and he is the one who discovers that Don John plotted the conspiracy to split up Hero and Claudio, because he overhears Don John's friends talking about it. Now that was the last question of the quiz. I hope this has given you a good idea of what Much Ado About Nothing is about. And I would really recommend watching the play. It's really entertaining. Obviously, there's a lot more detail that I've not been able to go into here, but it's a really enjoyable play and I'd recommend you watching it. But thank you for watching this video and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.